I'm Phil Rogacki.
And I'm Jared Abrojena.
And welcome to
Two Tree Guys and a Bucket of Beer.
Welcome to technically our second podcast that we had, but it's going to be our first aired podcast, Two Tree Guys and a Bucket of Beer. I'm Phil Rogacki.
And I'm Jared Abrojena.
And we'll be talking about on this show all the cool ass shit tree guys talk about over a cold beer. So this is something that we put together a while ago, and this first discussion we're going to have or talk over cold beer, it's going to be about Jared and about me and myself, and just kind of our story of coming together and starting this podcast and starting a lot of other things we started together. But before we get to any conversations and laughs and making fun of each other on this, we are always going to have a cold beer.
The most important part of the show.
So what we have here is we have a company called Devil Canyon. The Devil Canyon Brewing Company. It's a family-owned. I'm going to read this off online. It's a family-owned and operated certified sustainable brewing company located in San Carlos, California. They're a full-time, full-scale production facility and the private event center known year-round, yada, yada, yada. They make a lot of beer. And they make root beer, they said.
You say root beer?
Root beer.
Oh, man. Is that an Ohio thing? I got mad making root beer.
Root beer. Root beer. No, but when I went and picked up this beer, I went inside, and their event center that they have, it's pretty freaking sweet. I mean, it had a full-on stage, live concerts, and it was like in a warehouse in the middle of nowhere for that. So let's see.
Well, I'd love to crack one with you, but I jumped the gun, and I already have one cracked. So
I'm gonna try
you can catch
this.
up with me.
Craft Tide, it's a Moheto, rum barrel aged Moheto.
I'm pretty sure it's crafty, but we can call it a craft tie too.
That's what it says right here. Craft Tide.
Crafty.
Crafty? Oh gosh, man.
Wow.
Cheers, man.
Cheers.
First podcast.
Absolutely. So I picked this one purely by how cool it looked. And it says Hotsy Totsy. I was like, this is pretty cool. Hotsy Totsy. It's a red hot black ale. Never even heard of a red hot black ale. But I like red ales. So I was like, this thing would probably be something up my alley. This thing packs a punch. It's an 8.6 by volume.
Shit.
Yeah. So
what's it called?
Hotsy Totsy.
Hotsy Totsy.
Yeah, it's pretty tasty. So I'm milking this one out during the show. Make sure I can still get my words out.
Man, this tastes like I'm drinking a bottle of rum.
It's a Moheto.
Rum-aged hard seltzer.
We have our first podcast and talk and pop a beer, and you pick a Moheto. This guy.
It's a rum-aged hard
kill
seltzer. Oh, well, I guess it's
It does. I like the bottle though.
it's aged for 2 weeks, but it's not bad. It's kind of a 9.7. So by the time I'm done drinking this, I'm going to be pretty hammered. Hopefully we can get through this podcast here. So here we are, part of the podcast. We're on live right now on Tree Service Anonymous. We got some people watching us live on Instagram, but we're just going to kind of dive right into this and, kind of talk about our story of how we met, for the first time and kind of where we came from the school, the academy, to the podcast, to working together, to drinking together, to all the fun times that we've had, that was some good times. But, so I just remember first time I ever met you. I believe it was up at the ISA
Yosemite.
Mm-hmm. Yosemite.
I met you before that, but you didn't know me. You're too cool.
Where did I meet you?
All the trade shows.
You know what? I don't even know if I even met you. It was at TCIA. You're right.
Yep. Yeah.
You were there.
I know you were too cool. Like, you guys were cool guys. I was just a punk kid running around. You guys were big cool guys.
You were selling Husqvarna chainsaws, and you were
I wasn't
there.
selling shit.
Yeah, you were. You were dressed up with a Husqvarna shirt on, holding chainsaws.
It's called the Power Ranger.
No, I remember that was the first time, and I remember Jeremy Tibbetts was telling me, and he showed me a picture of you in a magazine, and he said, "See that guy? That's one of my best friends." Even though he did it, but he was so excited that he could associate with you in a magazine. That was exciting to him, and he showed me. He said, "One day you can meet this guy here." And I remember you were in a TCI magazine. You were stretched out real far, like. I think you had your handsaw, and that was it, and that was the picture from there.
Yeah, that was it.
So
the Western Arborist,
yeah, and that was the first time I seen you, and then coming in and meeting you at Yosemite and stuff like that. But then I had in my mind, I was like, you know what, Jared needs to be on our team. He needs to work with us. He needs to work with us. Yeah. So that's when I first contacted you. And we went to BW's, and
which was funny. Not to interrupt, but to interrupt was this started before years prior with Tibbetts and I, him always trying to get me to come, help and teach and train and be a part of him and what he was trying to build and grow and I'm tied up, man. I got things going on, but let's just keep talking. Maybe one day we can do it.
Yeah.
And we did that for a few years, which was funny. And one thing I always loved Jeremy about was, every time I'd see that guy, no matter if it was a trade show or a training or an event, he'd come over and Abrojena, he'd put his arm around me. Oh man, and you're like, Abrojena, what can you do for me? And he would say that every time, and I would crack up. I'm like, oh, man, what can I do for you? I'm like, what a winning mentality. What can you do for me? But anyway, yeah.
So going back before that, tell me, I've heard bits and pieces of your story, but I never heard your full story. I've heard, some exciting moments and, some events that you've done with, being with Husqvarna and, tree climbing championships and other different things. But what's the story of Jared? Take us all the way back to the beginning.
Oh man, this is a long story. I don't know if I want to milk this whole podcast. You and I with just my story. That's kind of selfish.
This is episode 7. They're still talking on the same.
Hey, look at Wyatt joined. What's up, Wyatt?
Oh.
Yeah, man. This goes back to childhood days. It's I was born and raised. I had not one other job in my entire life. I grew up as a kid dragging brush with Pops. Watch him, slave at a very young age, just the hardest working human being that I've ever known in my life. He would, show up late, come to practices, still in his work clothes, all beat, grindy.
So how'd your dad get into this?
Pops came from Hawaii and came out here, went to junior college. Him and my brother, and basically worked for a tree care company and on the ground. And I got to tell the story because the story's great and how this all worked out. And he got an interview, so he's like, "Sweet, this is like a working interview." And keep in mind, this was back in probably the upper 70s. I was born in 81, so probably upper 70s. I wasn't born yet. So anyhow, he show up on site, and there was about 5 other guys. And he rolls up, and everybody's working on the site. And there's one other guy and him. They like to show up. Everybody's just standing there. So they're like, screw it. Let's just get in there and start like helping, like grab some brush and move it. And, and the other guys were just kind of standing around watching what was going on. Well, the guy in the tree looks down and he goes, "You 2 guys stay. The rest of you guys go home." Boom, got the job.
What?
Right? Just because they took initiative to not have to have somebody tell them, "Hey, come grab some brush and keep moving." It's like they just showed up. They're like, "Shit, let's just get some stuff done and we'll work the rest out." Anyhow, you got the job.
And that goes with anybody just in business. Like sometimes owners, they're just looking for the person that just goes for it.
Right.
Takes a position, goes for it. They're not asked, and they just see a need and they fill it for that.
Right. Right. Yeah, super clutch, And so anyhow, he gets the job a year, 2 years, I forget, I don't know how long later, right? He's learned how to climb, he's doing the production work, and at some point he decided, I'm gonna do this for myself. He's not gonna pay me anymore, and I'm gonna go out there and try to make it work. Well, at the time, my dad was in his probably low 20s. Yeah, probably mid 20s. And keep in mind that the safety and all that stuff was damn near obsolete for him coming into this industry. So no hard hats, no t-shirts, they just roll around, and just dropping trees and hacking and slashing. But anyway, he would run. These are stories, right? So these are stories that I hear as a kid. And he said he would run up and down the Oakland Hills. And if you guys have been up in the Oakland Hills, you don't want to be running the Oakland Hills. You'd pass out homemade flyers, he had just little homemade flyers, and my mom used to share a car. They only had one car, right? And it was a Ford Falcon.
A homemade flyer. Let's talk about that. A homemade flyer, like handwritten. Hey, this is Gary. I'll come cut your trees. Call me. Next paper. Hey, this is Gary.
It's the guys in our industry right now that we all just can't stand.
Yeah, I'm like, this sounds like this is still going on today.
It is. Yeah, 45 years later, right? And it's still happening. But this is why I'm so prideful so proud of my pops and my family for pursuing and keep moving on. But anyhow, he would do that, and he's like, sometimes I get one big uke or one big Monterey pine up there in the Oakland Hills, and man, it would take me all week, sometimes more, and I'd do that $500. And I'm like, Pops, you had no truck, you got no chipper? He's like, nope.
I just let it roll down the hill.
I dropped Mom off at the bank where she worked, and I take that Ford Falcon, and I'd stuff that Ford Falcon full of brush and wood, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is nuts, right? But that's how we did it. It all started in Ford Falcon, and he just he'd cut and buck and shove it in the car and take it to the dumps and do 20 trips, and he's like, guess what? I make $500 in a week. Back then, $500, it was good. It was an honest paycheck, And so, with that being said, he's like, at some point he bought himself an old Ford dump truck. Yeah. Actually, it wasn't even a dump truck. Ford
why did he get into this? What? Just had a job and just enjoyed it?
Yeah, well, I think, from my understanding, the stories, back, in Hawaii, there was, they worked on the farm, and there was some tree work and whatnot that he did. But I think most experiences came from over here, and, he's just a hard worker. So it was like, shit, he's an athlete, hard worker, found something he can do and make some money, and, he just took to it. So that was the beginning of the beginning. But I guess once we were born, it was, obviously, like most people, you look up to your pops, and Dad was number one. He was the hardest working guy, and that's all I seen him ever from morning till night was work. So sometimes I was the grunt kid, man. It was like, Pops came home, guess who's out there pulling the saws out of the truck? Jared, get out here.
Why not Gary Jr.?
He had his share too, but it was me. It was me. Pull them out, sharpen, clean them, get them ready, prep, put them away.
Gary was inside doing homework for calculus and stuff.
Right. He had the brains. He's like, Jerry, where's my dumb kid? Get out here. Pull the saws out. He don't know no better.
He ain't doing any homework.
He don't know homework.
I'm for sure.
He's just getting in trouble. Yeah, but it was good. At the time, I didn't hate it. It was just, I got to kick it with Pops, and that was fun for me. I looked up to my dad a lot. I still do. But yeah, it was cool. I got to learn a lot about chainsaws. I got to learn a lot about trucks. I got to learn a lot about, mechanics. Me and that guy, we'd stay up in the driveway pulling transmissions and painting trucks and doing body work, and like we were the, whatever it took to do business and make it work, we did it. It was like, and I'm not gonna lie, it sucked. 1:00 in the morning as a kid holding the flashlight, underneath the truck, have your dad yell at you because you're not holding the flashlight right. It's like,
I've been there. I've been there with my dad. Hold that shit straight. Damn it.
You're falling asleep.
Grab me a beer.
Like my head's laying on the seat, falling asleep. The flashlight's falling to the side.
Oh, man.
Yeah. No, but it was good. Me and my dad, we became, best friends, and I owe him everything. He taught me how to work really hard, and that's one thing I really owe to him. And that comes from, just years and years of just putting me in those situations, and making me figure it out. Making me figure it out. Yeah, I remember he used to always say, he'd ask for something. I'm like, he's like, if I got to go over there and I find it, or if I have to do it, I'm like, oh shit. I better go figure it out because I'm gonna get a whooping.
See, mine was always in the refrigerator. I'd be like, "Mom, where's the milk?" She'd be like, "If I come in there, I swear to you." And I knew my mom wasn't gonna do shit.
Yeah.
And she'd come in, she's like, "Right there." I'm like, "Oh, damn it! I did not see that." I'm sure everybody experienced that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So when was how did you get in, like, the first time you started doing tree work, pulling brush, started climbing?
Well, I think it came a little bit after, when we would go camping, we would do a lot of recreational events. And, Pops would always bring his gear, and he loved to climb. He loved to be, he loved to be a part of it all the time.
Yeah.
So, he'd bring us kids, and we'd make rope swings and speed lines into the river, and we would climb trees, and he'd take us up. And as I got a little older, I was like 8, 9 years old, and I climbed my first, almost 200-foot tree. My mom was freaking out. I still got videos of this or pictures. But yeah, we get up there to the top, and I remember my little black diamond harness that I had, this rock climbing. That was the only thing that fit me. And the old school yellow, hard hats. And we do a lot of rec climbs, and it was just, I wasn't scared at all. It was just like, oh, Pops, I'm not gonna let me fall. It's like, it doesn't matter how high it is. Like, it's fine. So I grew a passion definitely for climbing, just from climbing with Pops. And then I think what really, really hit it off for me was watching him compete. And that was the kicker.
Where was that first place that you remember him competing?
Oh, man. His first comp was either, gosh, I'm terrible. I should know this. It was either down south in like Santa Barbara area, or it was down in like Orange County. It was one of the two. Mine was Orange. That was my first comp. I forget where his was.
Did he win?
No. It took him a little bit, but he did really well. And watching him as a young kid and not really understanding it, but spending the hours with him training, because I was the Sherpa. I was like, we're gonna go train. Grab my bag. So I'm like,
grab the flashlight too,
just
in case we have to change the transmission.
No, we would train till dark, and that was training. I mean, works for the day, training's for the night. So we would run into the night quite a bit. So, at a young age, it was tough. Yeah. He would drag me down there, and I was like, oh man, we really got to go do this right now. Like, this sucks. But, it was pretty cool to watch somebody that wanted it that bad and to get better. And
why do you want to compete? I mean, there was probably thousands of tree guys. I mean, what interested him to get in and start competing?
I never asked him that. I think it's just a competitive nature, right? You find something cool in your industry that's like, oh man, I didn't know that I could be competitive in tree climbing, and this is my, Guys right now are just, that's one of the biggest questions they have is,
And I'm sure if anybody's, on the live, they want to ask any questions, a lot of them are like, how do I even start? How do I train? How do I do that? I mean, you can write a whole little book on that these guys are asking for that.
Right.
And I've been asked, from other people, like, how do I get into this kind of stuff?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, a quick answer to that is find your local chapter through the ISA and go to a comp and just check it out. Be a part of it. Don't sign up. Just watch them all, meet the people, shake hands, get to know everybody, ask a lot of questions, and then you got something to work on. Then you go back and you just practice, become part of the network, and you guys will find that a lot of people out there are just really giving human beings in our industry, and there's a lot of love, and it's all about growing together. So you take that, and in the next year you sign up, and then
I remember when
network.
We heard about a competition and we decided to sign up for it. So we signed up 15 people. And they told us no.
No, yeah.
They're like, nobody signs up 15 people.
Well,
everybody wants to compete.
You just took half of the. Your company can't take half of the comp.
Well, there was never a rule for that. No one had a rule for that. I didn't say that anywhere. And then they were like,
yeah.
So then I think we got it down to 3. We could take 3, max 3.
Yeah.
For that. That was funny. I'm like, well, shit, sign up 30 people. Let's all go. Let's all compete.
Right. Yeah.
So you started, when did you start high school? Were you pulling brush and doing?
Oh, yeah. Well before high school. Oh, man. Yeah, this was
child labor laws, all that, breaking everything.
Man, I was a kid. I wanted to hang with pops. I wanted to be a big boy, man. I wanted to work. I wanted to climb. I had something to prove. I'd like to go out there and show his workers what's up. I was like, I don't know. That's just my mentality. I was super competitive,
Were you climbing then? Or how old were you?
Oh, yeah. And by the time I was 15, 16, I was competing.
When did you climb and prune your first tree?
Oh, yeah, maybe 12, 13.
Chainsaw?
Oh, yeah, I did removals. Yeah.
12 and 13?
Yeah.
You barely had hair under your arm.
Oh, I had no hair, man. I'm Hawaiian, man. This stuff grows in when you're like 30.
So you're climbing trees, 12, 13. You did your first competition. Where was that at? Orange County, you said?
I think it was Orange. Yeah, Orange County, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was good. I think I placed like 10th or something like that overall. And, I had a lot of mentors back then in this industry, coming up, watching them was awesome. Robert Phillips, obviously my father. Back then there was Johnny Meismer. Oh man, there was just so many good people, and I feel bad for leaving everybody out now. But I had a lot of love from a lot of good directions, and I got the bug. I really got the bug. I got the itch, and Pops did it too. So I'm like, oh man! Like,
and you guys were competing against each other.
This became later. Well, when I first competed at 15, what happened was there was no really rules written on that. So they nipped that, and they're like, well, you got to be 18 for, for insurance purposes. So anyway, they pushed it off, and I'm like, all right, that sucks, but I'm going to come back at 18. They gave me, quite a few years to say, I'm gonna prep and get it on. And in the meantime, I was an athlete in high school, and I liked sports, baseball,
right?
Basketball. I tried football for a little bit, but it interfered with the other sports.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of my thing. And school wasn't. Just rough, just super rough. Couldn't pay attention.
Why?
Couldn't stay in class.
Why?
If I knew why, then I probably would have been better off these days. Yeah. No, I just had a hard time, attention span wise, and you call it ADD, call it what it is. I don't know. I'm not diagnosed, but I never go to the doctor, so that's probably why. I don't know. I just had a hard time taking authority and listening to people, and people telling me what to do and not getting respect. I had teachers kind of, everybody knows how that is. They talk to you like a baby or a child. I'm like, nope, I'm sorry, I'm out of here. I'll walk right out of your class until you can talk to me like a person. Then you got me.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Then I'll
Yeah.
I'll submit. But yeah. So it's a little bummer. That was the the crashing phase of my high school career, and thought I could go a little bit further in sports, but the education was number one, right? And then that didn't work out, so everything else fell apart.
Yeah.
It was a little rough, not graduating on time and having to go through all that, education after to try to get, graduated and have this diploma and this piece of paper. And, I'm not knocking it, and just, if I can change the way I am and the way it was, then I would. But
when I got that piece of paper, no joke. I mean, from high school, and hopefully there's no kids in high school listening to this, but I got that piece of paper. I didn't do jack shit with it. I think it went in a drawer. Nobody's ever asked me.
Yeah.
They just said, "Oh, do you have a high school diploma?" I mean, yeah, sure, I do. Okay, thanks. And that was it. Like, I never used that at all.
Yeah.
For anything.
Well, it's kind of like a 50-50 though, right? And this is the hard part. You're like, yeah, you kind of got lucky where you didn't need it. But then again, most people, they don't need it. And all of a sudden they get a point in their life where something happens and then they need it. And then, it's like, oh man.
Yeah.
And then it just takes them in a whole different path in a really bad direction.
I mean,
so,
it's something you feel that you've completed. I get that. I've completed it. I went through 12 years of school. I've completed high school. Great. Now what's next for me? What's the next, step? Is it college? Is it this? Or is it starting a career or a trade school and everything? And then you get used to the completing. But I never had to show that paper. And, they've told me for years, you got to graduate. You got to graduate. Of course you do. Everybody needs to graduate high school, go through high school, get the education. But then once I got that little diploma, I never looked at it ever again. I really thought that I was going to need this for every job. Like, I was going to walk in with this diploma, like, can you give me a job? I have this piece of paper with me. That's how they trained me. And it wasn't. I put it in my hutch drawer and never used it again.
This is funny. This is a good one. So I did end up getting my diploma a few years after, right? And so I graduated and whatnot. Eventually, didn't walk, but I went back because I had to go. Figured, I'm like, I have this certificate somewhere.
Yeah.
I just got to go get it.
Yeah.
So went down to high school 5 years later. 5 years later, right? And I walk in the office and I'm like, I'm here to pick up my diploma. And they're like, oh, okay, what class? I'm like, 99. And it's 2005. They're like, let me go back in the files real quick. It's super awkward, right?
Oh, you did it.
I did.
To get it? So they've been holding on to this thing for 5 years?
Yeah.
They're like, actually, you have a detention you still have to serve to get it.
You got a library book
you
out.
You have to report to third period to Mr. Johnson's class.
Oh, man. So funny. So
That's
funny. But yeah, I like to think that I don't have regrets, but I do. I do. I have some regrets in there. And, I think, there's
in high school?
Yeah. I didn't work hard enough. I was a little stubborn. I was kind of a punk kid.
Yeah.
But, it taught me who I am today, and I have a lot more respect now, I think, from going through all that. So it's good. It's good.
It's everybody in life, they look back and they go, oh man, if I could just do it again, I could just do it again. And when you say those kind of things and you think of them like, man, if I could go back, I would do it different. I would do it different. You have to take those feelings and you have to look at the now. Mm-hmm. You're living in the now of what you're going to be thinking of a year from now and saying, oh, if I just had those 2 more years, if I could have went back 2 more years. So today is the day that you can live like that for the rest of the life. You don't have to think about the past. Just take today and say, you know what, tomorrow I'm going to make the right decisions. Tomorrow I'm going to go all in. Tomorrow I'm going to fail and fail and fail and fail until I finally freaking win. Don't wait till 10 years goes by and you have to look at that and say, dang, man, if I could go back, I could make those changes.
Right. Oh, believe me, I'm I'm going all in, and
Today's
it
today.
hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts. This currently hurts.
It hurts. All right, so there you were.
So there I was.
High school, there you were.
There I was.
So high school, got out of high school.
Yeah, got out of high school.
Did you go right into the family business?
No. I did actually go to college
Yeah?
for a day.
For a day.
One day.
That's why you went and got your diploma. But it was 5 years later you went to college.
Well, in the meantime, during this, I've been working all through high school with Pops. I used to split wood as a kid.
Yeah.
And, Pops let me do that and sell firewood by hand, obviously. But anyway, yeah. So graduated, and I decided, I think I'll try this college thing out. I think, went to the same college my dad went to when he DVC, Diablo Valley College. Mm-hmm. And
that's in what, Pleasant Hill or Concord?
Yep, Pleasant Hill.
Pleasant Hill, okay.
Concord, same. So went there, and oh man, I just felt like the biggest goob in the world. I was just like, oh.
Did you go out and buy like notebooks and your backpack and?
I don't think I had anything, man. I was just like, I'm just gonna
show
show
up with a pencil, pen.
Yeah, maybe like a binder, because that's what everybody does. Right? You have a binder and some paper in there.
That's it.
That's it.
You're like, I'm here.
I'm supposed to take notes.
There's my teacher. I'm ready to learn.
Yeah. So
Teach me.
This didn't go too far either. So I was super nervous and like, I don't know where anything is. Mm-hmm. I don't know how, they're like, you go to orientation. I'm like, Orient what? Like, no, I'm Hawaiian.
You're like, I brought a flashlight. I got the flashlight. Is okay.
So anyhow, I go to my first class, and I will never forget this. And I was late because I couldn't find the damn thing, because I didn't have a map. And I'm running around asking everybody how to get to this one class. And that's the one class I thought it was. I forget what it even was. But anyway, I walk in, the place is packed, and there's people standing up against the wall. Mm-hmm. Now I'm super confused. I'm the last one that walks in. So everybody's looking at me. Mm-hmm. And right then and there, I'm like, ooh, I don't like this. Like I'm mad now. So I kind of whisper to somebody. I'm like, what's going on? They're like, oh, you just stand back here and just wait for your name. Call your name. What? They call the name, and they're like, you're on, I forget the name, what they call it, but you're basically on a wait list.
To get into school?
To get in the class. In that one class. So this is how stupid I look, is I'm like, raise my hand. I'm like, so I know I signed up for this class. They're like, oh, yeah, we know, we understand. You're on the wait list, but you have to attend. And then if people drop out, then you get the spot.
Oh, nice.
So I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense to me. I signed up for this class, and they're like, well, so did everybody else. So
once you're on the wait list.
You're on the wait list. So I'm like, so you're saying I can stay here for like weeks and not even be
You'd
sure?
have to show up for every class?
Every class. And I still could not possibly be in that class at some point. So she goes, yes. I'm like, I grabbed my shit and I walked right out and I grabbed my phone. I called my pops. I'm like, where's the job? My gear's in the trunk.
You didn't even go to college.
No.
You just waited in the wait list.
The wait list.
You act like I did 1 day of college. No, you were on the wait list for 1 day. That's a difference than going into an actual college class.
Yeah, I killed it. I absolutely killed it.
You killed it. You had your pencil and your flashlight. You're ready to go. I'm Hawaiian, and let me in, people.
Oh man, I was so embarrassed and I felt so dumb. And everybody seemed to think that was like a legitimate thing. Like, let's sign up. Let's all sign up and wait however long. And maybe
the funny thing of that is down the road is you felt dumb. You didn't know how the college, educational system, blah, 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 worked of getting in. You were just like, fuck this. And years goes down the road and you open your own school. You know what I mean?
It's pretty ironic. It's pretty ironic.
The guy that couldn't even get into a college class on a wait list has been claiming on his resume, I did 1 college class day. Now you opened a school and academy.
I would never let my students wait that long to be in a class.
Oh gosh, that's awesome.
Oh man, that's so funny. Yeah.
So Dad's like, had your gear ready. Let's rock and
Yeah,
roll.
no, I call Pops. I'm like, "Where's the job? I got my harness in the trunk. Where's it at? Let's go to work." And he's like, "Everything good?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's not for me." And he's like, "All right."
That was it. Are
Drove to
you
the job.
happy that you made that decision or not?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And what were you going to school for?
Man, I don't know, man. It was just general ed. I'm just trying to just do what everybody else did. I was just following,
You were
following the
swimming
school.
downstream. Yep.
Yeah.
You're swimming downstream.
Yep.
I
was in the
or
pack.
upstream with the freaking salmon. It's and I have this philosophy in school, and this is my own opinion on college and school. I remember the time in my life where I decided, F this, I'm out of here. I was in the jewelry industry, and I just remember looking at, these two old people that were coming in, and I was selling, wedding rings and diamond rings and stuff. And these two old people came in and they're like, we're finally, your kids are gone. We're retired. I want to buy her something. They're like 65 years old. And they're like, we're going to go see the world. And I'm looking at these old people going, you guys are like almost ready to die. Now, back then, 65 was like, you're almost ready to die. And I'm like, now you're going to go see the world? And it made me just realize in life, now that was a job I was working that, and that I needed to go out and I needed to explore. I needed to see the world. There was more to see than wait 30 years and follow this lie that's been told to me for my whole life. The lie of the sense of going, when you have to graduate high school. Of course, everybody does.
I don't think it's a lie. It's more of a tradition. It's a
No, I believe it's a true lie because they said I graduate high school, and as soon as I was done, I had to go to college. You weren't smart unless you went to college. And I felt I had to go to college. I had to do the college thing. And then after that, they're like, you have to get married. You have to have kids. You have to have a Labrador Retriever. You have to buy a house. You have to find a stable job to work for 30 years. And then after you're done with that stable job of 30 years, hopefully you saved up enough to retire. And then you're about 65 years old to then retire and, live your life and fish here and there and then die and be done. Like, that sucks. And I feel that it was ingrained in our brains, or at least in my brain, for those years to say that is a successful American dream life that you had to live.
You're correct.
And I said, F that. I said, I don't want to do that. I want to do whatever the F I want to do. I want to go where I want to go. I want to do what I want to do. I want to live my life, And, I did fall in some of those routines. I did get in that day-to-day 9-to-5 job, which is okay because I needed to, but I feel like I missed out some. I feel like I could have made a difference. So now going forward, every single day I'm going, how do I live my life to its freaking fullest? All chips are in, everything's in for that. So I feel it's been ingrained in every kid's head of success. I mean, they ingrain different things in society and stuff in people's head. So people that are
That's a whole
listening to
nother
this podcast, it is. It's a whole nother podcast. Live freaking free, people. Do whatever the heck you want that makes you happy. Because when you go to your reunion and you finally go to your reunion and they ask you, the question they always have, is, what are you doing for a living? How much are you making? What car do you drive? But the one thing they don't ask you is, are you happy?
Right.
Are you happy? And that's the thing in life you got to make sure you're doing is you got to make sure you're doing what makes you happy for that. So that's my little rant, rave on society and life and school and all the other bullshit.
You just put
that's
like
been fed.
5 podcasts right there and like.
But those are the things, and get back on to, and I want to, that's what this podcast is about. This podcast is about whatever the F we want to talk about. 2 tree guys. We got a bucket of beer or a wood box of beer, a beautiful wood box of white birch and black walnut and awesome coasters and, craft beer from San Carlos. But this podcast, it's not about, and I've heard some very boring tree podcasts. And I'm sure there's some people on this podcast listening to it going, this is some boring shit right now.
Oh, yeah.
But this podcast is about what we talk about on a daily basis. It's not just about trees and the science and let me hear how you learned how to climb, but man, real life shit that we're going over.
Right.
I want to know about, the industry. I want to know about our vendors and equipment. I want to know about barbecue and fishing. I want to know about fun things and different stuff. That's what this podcast
What
is
these
for.
guys like, what they're into.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
people just don't live, eat, and sleep trees.
Yeah.
No, they're going home. It's about family. It's about drinking beer. It's about enjoying the fullest that this world has to offer every individual out there. That's what this podcast is about.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a lot of cool guests on here, not just a bunch of tree guys.
Yep.
It's just 2 tree guys and a bunch of other people that'll be on here. But there's going to be a bunch of other people that'll be coming on this podcast in our industry, not in our industry. And we're going to have a lot of freaking fun. And the one thing I always said on this podcast is we're not here to entertain the people on the outside. As long as you and I are entertained here, that's all the fricks that matters.
Yeah.
Because we might have 2 people that follow us, and that's okay.
And
it might
that's
be
okay.
you, and it might be me, but we're going to have a lot of fun.
Well, and along with that too, this has opened the doors for people to come in here and express, themselves as people in our industry, and that's what we want. We want to, create a place, that the tree people can come and share their. Most tree people are pretty like-minded individuals.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
To hear their stories are just incredible. I can listen to the tree people stories all day long.
Yeah.
All day long. And that breaks off into a lot of other tangents, a lot of other podcasts.
Yeah.
But creating something that eventually some of the people out here listening can get in here and sit right in here with us, and we can have a good time.
Have some fun, man.
Oh yeah,
have some fun. Shit.
Yep. Scott, there's nothing that it's gonna limit us.
Absolutely, man.
Nothing.
We're gonna do some things that are gonna.
I'm scrolling to see
industry.
who's listening to us right now.
Anybody? You know anybody here?
I was gonna try.
If anybody's listening, please ask some questions. We'll see them on our screen here, and we'll answer them for you the best as we can. So
I'm gonna jump back into my story so I can get this done, and I don't have to talk about it anymore. I'm just like it's one show done, and then we can do yours,
and that's it.
And then we'll do the whole thing. But I'm gonna go right back into where competition was a huge part of my life and my career, and kind of what got me to where I am today. So I guess after, high school, after competing with my pops, for the first time, that grew on me. It grew, and my competitive nature from, playing baseball and sports, and really, I didn't have that anymore.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh man, I need something to go after, And during that low to mid 20, or from 20 to 30, I was a very gung ho, on a mission person. I needed goals every year. I'm gonna hit this by 22. I'm gonna hit this by 23. I'm gonna hit this by 24. I had goals to become a world champion by, before I was 30. And I was willing to sacrifice my whole life to do it.
Who'd you see that was a world champion that stuck out and you go, oh, beat that mother up?
This goes deep. When I was a kid watching my pops, he would obviously he won the chapter a few times, and he would go to the world championships,
Yeah.
And I'd go there and I'd watch. I mean, even our chapter at that time was so good, just man, our guys, we had top 10 guys that were just like would kill it.
Yeah.
And then we get to the worlds, and I remember grabbing my mom's video camera, and that thing was the size of this beer bucket.
That's
and
one you
it's
put on
just
your shoulder, right?
Oh man, I'm like this little kid, trying to watch all these guys, and man, I wanted to study them, So I'm watching them, like Mark Chisholm, Bettis from Germany. You got Rip Tompkins, Ken Palmer. You got all these. I mean, gosh, man, these guys were legends, man, legends. I'm like, gosh, like a perfect example. It was this Hilton Head Island down in South Carolina, and I think it was South Carolina. It was like way down there somewhere. Anyway, it was an island, Hilton Head Island. and super hot and muggy. You know, my dad's competing, had a pretty good shot, and Ken Palmer was going, and this guy was absolutely shredded at the time. You know, and it's like, you know, he took his shirt off. His turn to go, took his shirt off, and he got up like in a push-up stance, and they'd pour water on him, and he'd put his, you know, and he'd like get back up. I'm like, whoa, dude, this guy, he's gonna kill some shit. Like,
It sounds some like Axe commercial.
no, but these guys were cutthroat. I'm here to whoop some ass, you know, and that's what I grew up in, watching these guys. Like, I didn't come for anything else but to win. I'm here to win. And like, we can act kind of friendly, but
I'm here to beat your ass.
I'm here to beat you. Right. And, you know, I liked it. I thought that was really cool. At the same time, you know, the camaraderie kind of was there to a certain degree, and it definitely grew over the years.
Yeah.
But being a competitor, you know, I seen that. I was like, oh man, like this could be like a real big thing, you know. So anyway, for me, getting into it was kind of like a 50-50. Like, oh man, I want to be competitive, but you know, like all these people are so cool. You know, like I want to be friends with everybody. You know, I'm like a little young Labrador. Like, oh man, I just want to lick y'all. Like, you know, I'm bouncing around, having fun. But
They're like, good go sit down.
a little puppy dog over there bouncing around. That was me. But did pretty good at a young age, and kind of made my mark really young. Got to the world championship, and won my first or got to the first international. And I remember this too because I made top 5 and into the Master Challenge.
Now, how many competitors is that out of?
Oh man, well, you got, you know, each chapter, you know, you're talking whatever, like at the time, maybe 50, I don't know if it's 50 chapters, and you got 30 people per chapter, rough-ish.
So 150 people.
Right, across the world. So, well, back then, too, was a little different. Like our chapter, Western chapter, used to have 3 comps a year, and then whoever won the last comp would represent the chapter.
Gotcha.
Yeah, different now. You only have one. So, anyhow, I got out there, and I made top 5. I don't know if it was top 5 or top 3 at the time. It was so long ago. But I remember this to the T, and I'm like, you know, I went out there with my Bright Ann saddle. My Bright Ann saddle was considered a saddle, right? Harness.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was just very, like, man, I went out and bought, you know, my dad bought for me, like 2 brand new carabiners. You know, I had a nice new rope in my homemade lanyard. That's about it. That's about it. I didn't have much. I'm like, I got 2 new press sticks. I'm like, man, I'm like, I look sharp, you know. And there's nothing hanging on my harness. There's not one. I didn't need anything. I'm like, I threw another extra like new carabiner, and I thought, I'm like, man, look at that, all that bling on the back of my harness. This looks real good.
You guys in the industry try to get a lot of shit on their belt to look cool.
You know, I think there's just so many options nowadays that it's a.
Because I've seen some of them that I'm like, how do you even climb with all that shit on you?
Yeah. Well, it's applicable to a certain extent, right?
Yeah.
It depends on how you climb, you know, and a lot of it too. You carry it, you know, in case you need it, and sometimes you carry it because you want to be creative.
Yeah.
In a certain moment, and you have it to be creative.
Gotcha.
Right. So it's not all, you know. It all depends.
Yeah.
Yeah. To each his own, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, there I was. My first international, made top 5. Nervous as can be. I got 2 brand new carabiners. Man, I'm looking sharp.
3. Remember you had
3. Yeah.
3.
The other one, yeah. And yeah, I had at that time I was competing with a really good friend of mine, Frank Chips, and this was in Washington.
Where's Frank Chips now?
Frank Chips is up in Oregon.
When was the last time you talked to him?
Ooh, you're throwing me under the bus right now. His son's listening to me right
Is
now.
he?
Yeah.
Frank Chips, if you're listening, give Jared a call. Let's reconnect this.
Well, he does call me. I'm really bad at calling back. I'm really bad at calling back. How we say Frank's one of my best friends, man. He's just a great human being, and this guy was he was a hell of a climber. He's probably still a hell of a climber. I haven't seen him climb in a while, but man, this guy had records, and he would smash. He would just absolutely smash. But a lot of love. But anyhow, so I remember this. I got up there, and I'm, climbing around, and I'm in my master challenge, and I can't see halfway through the climb. I'm sweating bullets because I can't see. And I'm taking my glasses like on and off, and they're blowing whistles at me. I'm like, oh man, put them on. I'm like, take them off. I'm like, I can't see anything. So I'm like, before I make a move, I got to put, sweaty glasses back on, walk 5 feet, and then like take out, look again.
What the hell?
Oh, it was just it was a mess. So anyway, I obviously didn't win that one, but I think I placed third or fourth or fifth. I don't know. It wasn't anything good. I hardly remember it. But it was just like after
that was your first.
Yeah, but I made top 5.
That was for the world.
Yep, my first world championship. I made top 5.
Shit.
Yeah,
that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
How old were you then?
Oh man, I don't know. 2001.
Yeah.
2001. Yeah.
Shit. Okay. And then you wanted it. You were like,
and that was my day.
I made the top 5. I could win this thing. I was that
I just
close.
neid
if
one
I would have had
extra
a little more
carabiner.
training, I needed 4 carabiners, damn it. And I should have had it shinier than the other one. I would have won. Yeah. But you've seen how close it was and going, if I would have just done this much more, if I would have done that much more effort or that little bit more training, I could have won the thing.
That's it. And for me, what it came down to was training. I just, I was being prepared, and, maybe it was cardio or agility or.
It was the safety glasses.
Yeah, safety glasses. There's a lot of things to it, like the endurance, So anyway, I got the bug. I got the itch. Yeah. And then from that point on, I'm like, I'm going to win a Worlds. I don't care how long it takes. I'm going to win this thing. And
why did you want to win it so bad?
Just because I'm a competitor. And I
was it going back and seeing the guys that your dad was, competing against, the Rip Thompsons, the Mark Chisholms, and
I don't think it was.
I want to be like those guys, or is it I want to be better than those guys?
Well, for them, growing up, what I did is, I go back to the story where I was, I had my camera and I would record all them. I used to pick pieces out on them of what made them amazing. What were their movements? What was their?
And how old were you when you were doing this?
Oh man, I was maybe 17.
And
16,
you were
17,
you were noticing certain movements that they were making that made them better than the other competitors.
Absolutely, yeah. And then I recorded it, and then I was able to kind of like go back and see. And I'm like, why is my dad good? Why is Rip Tompkins good? Why is Mark Chisholm so good? Why is Bettis so good? How can Bettis, being a foot smaller than Chisholm, how does he keep up? What makes this? What makes him so good? And so I drew off a lot of that, and I was like, oh man, I'm gonna take that from him and this from him, and I like his style. And then you kind of build your own swag. And
so you would go back and you would rewatch these videos.
Yep, I would check them all out. And
what 17-year-old kid in this world is going back and watching guys climbing trees?
Well,
I mean, the mindset that you'd have to have on that. I mean, that's pretty. I mean, you knew what you wanted to do.
Yep.
At that age, you knew you wanted to be a world champion. You knew what you needed to do, and the dedication that it took to be able to become a world champion was studying tapes. I mean, every sporting event, hockey, football, basketball, they study the other players to learn from them. MMA fighting. Yeah. It's pretty cool to see, because I don't know how many other competitors are out there that are watching videos of other guys to learn how they climb?
Most of the top guys, none. They're such natural, I think, athletes, and they had the ability. And I tip my hat to them. They crush it, and the guys that do it multiple times over and over, they're just natural athletes, and they, high five, for the rest of us. It's like we have some natural ability, but the rest we gotta figure out. How do I figure that out? You know,
like
how do I cheat?
It's
You
like
know?
Spud Webb, who won the slam dunk
the contest,
competition.
yeah.
He's the guy that no one ever thought he could win it, you know, and he probably studied and figured out a way, the little guy, to win it.
Yep. Yeah. Well, all he had to do was dunk a basketball, and he won.
I
mean,
mean,
that's it. Oh my gosh.
4'2", this guy.
Basically, how it went down.
They're like, it's impossible. Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that really took off for me, and I just trained, and man, well, at the time, my wife now, my girlfriend then. I've been with my wife since just out of high school, and so she was a nutritionist / trainer. She was a trainer. Yeah. So we decided she was gonna help me get in shape every year for these events. So I swear I've done every damn diet and training and workout program, and man, I've been through the ringer of everything every year.
Did it make a difference?
Yeah, but what we did something a little different, and I was in for the sacrifice here, and yeah, I could have done what worked and stuck with it, but I had to find, and I told myself this, and this leads into a lot of different aspects of my life. I was kind of thinking, how do I find the ultimate me? And I think nobody really does that. I think a lot of people go, oh man, what's Michael Phelps? He trains and he swims this way. I'm gonna do what he does because he's a badass and he's an Olympic champion. Well, he's a different person. He's 6 whatever at X amount of pounds, and you could never be that. Why are you gonna take his regimen? You got to find the ultimate you, not the ultimate Michael Phelps.
How does someone find that?
So that's a good question.
I've been trying to find the ultimate diet for myself for 38 years.
Well, you need a target, man. You got to have it. You got to have a target.
But how do you find for you your body, your diet, your exercise, your regimen? Like, how do you find that for yourself? Or how did you find that for yourself to know this works for me? Because it's not going to probably work for anybody else, but this works for me.
Yeah. That's a great question. So, for me, being, an athlete in all these different sports, I was always very limber. I had, I was really light. I was 155 pounds.
How much
6
do you weigh
feet.
now?
I could dunk. I could shoot. I could run. I was very, let's not go there so quick. Yeah. But yeah, I was kind of an all around decent athlete.
Yeah.
But I'm like, yeah, I can climb trees. I can climb trees pretty good. But how do I become the ultimate tree climber for myself? Do I just climb more trees? Do I climb trees longer, harder? Do I do it faster? Do I do more footlocks? Do I do more body thrusts at the end of the day?
Yeah.
How much do I practice in what regard, which would make me the best in what I do? How do I scale this?
Yeah.
Right. And it's really difficult. It's really difficult to do. I'm not saying that I did it perfect, but I did it for me and it was successful.
Yeah.
And basically what I did is at that point in my life, I said, well, I'm going to do 10-pounder increments with a different training and a different diet all the way up to 200 pounds, if that makes sense. So I'm 155 pounds, 160 pounds.
And you were working on gaining 10 pounds?
Every year.
What you were saying on, let me put my mic a little bit closer.
I'll challenge anyone, line them up.
I don't know what that means. Travis?
2021, the future. Oh, that's George.
George, what a good guy. But, the academy, to elevate the standard of our industry through safety, training, and innovation, it's we're trying to build something pretty awesome here with the academy and build an education course and build something that men and women from around the world can get a full-on education, because in every other country around this world, arboriculture, climbing, you can get a 4-year college education. You can go to school. They have trade schools and everything. But in America, we don't have much. I mean, why do you think that is? I mean, why doesn't America have what Canada has and Australia has and Japan and China and Europe and that? We don't have the schooling and training here from that. But it's something that's been asked and needed in our industry for such a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So, we've been working on some really cool things. The apprenticeship program, building that out and building the curriculum that'll be approved and to my knowledge will be the second apprenticeship program. There was an apprenticeship program that I learned from a gentleman that says back in 1970 they had a state approved apprenticeship program for tree work in the 70s. But it's disappeared. So once we get this back,
She gone.
once we get this back, we'll have the first approved state apprenticeship program for climbing trees, for working on the ground, for business development, and for plant health care for that. And then with that schooling that you'll get from 18 to 24 months, you then can take that and you're going to be able to take that schooling when you pass and be able to put it to your local junior college, and you can actually get an associate's degree in doing tree work.
Mm-hmm.
Who would ever have thought in the world, in the industry, that you can get an associate's degree in climbing trees? Guess what?
Wicked.
You get to go back to college, Jared.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So, it's we've been talking a long time on this for the last 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Hearing your story, and it's an incredible story, and we're going to hear a lot more of it.
Yeah, it's a forever story.
Forever, it is. And
we haven't even touched ground yet on finishing how this all started and where we're at.
No,
so
and you guys are gonna get bits and pieces on this show that you're going to be listening to about our story and about how it was built, and you're going to be hearing on this podcast. This is a podcast. This is for fun. This is for the industry. This is the Joe Rogan of the tree care world kind of podcast. We're going to be bringing on some awesome guests. We have a lineup that I won't tell you now, but some really good lineup. And there's going to be some fun episodes, man. And the more we do this and the more fun we have on this, it's just going to become more entertaining and more we're gonna create some cool stuff on this show. Yeah, some cool.
Oh yeah, I mean, we did this for the people, right, of our industry to be able to come in and be a part of it. Come in here and speak and talk and ask questions, and we're. I'm excited. I'm really excited. To be honest with you, I keep going back on this. I know I'm trying to get off of here and shut this thing down. But, Phil came to me when we first met. He's like, I want to do a podcast. I want you to be a part of this podcast, and you be my first speaker. I'm like, what the fuck's a podcast? 100%. I'm like,
you're like, do you drink that in the morning?
No idea.
Podcast?
I'm like, man, I'm a tree. I don't wake up. I go cut trees and I go home. Yeah. I drink a few beers. And no clue. So I had to search around and kind of figure out what podcasts I had to find out what a podcast was and who talks on them. I'm like, this shit's stupid, but whatever. I mean. This guy knows what he's talking about. I'll talk, whatever. So anyhow, I go and I log into my first podcast, which he recommended, which was How I Built This.
Yeah, great Guy Rise.
Guy Rise, yeah,
Awesome.
Amazing. Guy
I
Rise.
want to hear how Starbucks, Home Depot, Kate
Patagonia,
Spade, Patagonia, how they built their companies from the ground up.
Just
people like you and I, and people that are listening on this podcast. They were just normal people that decided, I'm going to fucking do something. I'm
pretty sure they're still normal people.
Yeah.
No. But anyway, so gets me going. He's like, oh, yeah, we're going to do this. And, X amount of years later, here we are at the podcast table.
It is.
We have our own podcast.
It is, man.
I've
awesome.
I've listened to 5 podcasts in my entire life.
And now you're a host of a freaking podcast show. And not just any podcast show. Let me tell you, the gear, the equipment, the room. I mean, we've invested no joke, probably about $60,000 in building this room out for you and I right now to be talking on live with 6 people watching us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
It's just incredible. The things
I got beer.
We got beer. Cheers, man. Cheers. 2 tree guys and a bucket of freaking beer talking about cool shit, man. And it's really humbling, and I feel super blessed, man. I really do. I feel blessed of you being one of my closest friends, and to be able to share this moment with you, man.
Absolutely.
To be able to be on a podcast like this and to create something that we spoke into existence, and.
Oh, that's it. 100. Everything we do, we speak into existence.
Speak into existence, man.
We can do that.
Absolutely, but it's not just us. It's our producer / comedian / smartest guy I've ever met, Bob.
Mr. Bob, where's Bob? Bob, come say hi. You gotta come at least walk in here.
No,
and
he doesn't
come,
even have to say hi. He can talk right from the mic.
I can talk from right here. How's
See that? That's Bob, guys. That's Bob. Thank you, Bob. I just want to give a shout out to Bob for all the hard work and dedication he did to build this room and to put up the curtains and the mics and the cameras and the design and just everything. Not just on the podcast, but on the academy. Bob's a pillar in what we do, and without that pillar, everything crumbles. So, Bob, appreciate you, man. I really do.
Give me your 2 cents. What are you thinking right now? What's your what's your stance?
Well, I'm just, I think it's great to finally get this first podcast under our belt, but I'm more concerned with, the Easter Bunny because
Here it comes.
yeah, you think about Easter. What if the Easter Bunny was absolutely real? You think Black Friday was bad? You think Black Friday was bad if there was some bunny leaving gold eggs all over the place? No one would leave their house on Sunday.
That'd be some scary shit.
That would be scary.
Oh, man.
So that's what's on my mind. And happy Easter, everybody.
Oh, man.
Life in the mind of Bob.
So that's great. The life of the mind of Bob. Thank you for that, Bob. The 4 cents. It wasn't 2 cents, 4 cents. But everybody who's listening to this show, I just want to say we appreciate everybody in the industry, the other tree guys, the tree gals, the tree people that are out there doing what you do every single day. We appreciate you guys. Let's elevate the standard. Let's really change the game here and make our industry freaking awesome, out there. And it's not just us 2 at the table, but it takes everybody that's listening to this.
Absolutely.
For all of you guys that are listening, we would love some stuff that you have to send to us. If you have a hat, you have a shirt, you have anything you want to have on the podcast show, send it to us. We'll wear it. I'm an extra large. Jared's an extra small. I think
it'd be good too if you guys want to send this podcast was about telling our story. If you guys want to send something in and tell your quick story or whatnot, and we can share some of you guys' experiences along with ours. It'd be kind of cool on the next show. So, like I said, we're here for you guys, and we're here to really just expose our industry as a whole. And let's get this out because it's a really cool industry. And we got really cool people in it, and people just don't know.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And if you guys want to be a guest on the show, go to our webpage, fill out the application, tell us your story, send videos, pictures, whatever you want. Maybe you're selected to be on the show, but we're going to have a lot of fun on this. This is the first of many of a lot of cool things. So really appreciate you guys. Appreciate your likes, your comments, your follows, everything on social media. Share us to your friends for everything for that. So, I'm going to be ending the show right now, but I'm going to take over on the Instagram. If anybody has any questions, I'm going to answer for that. So thanks again, everybody. And remember, elevate the standard of our industry through safety, training, and innovation. Good night.
Peace.